For more videos, press the subscribe button and also turn on the bell notifications to receive the updates directly in your device.
Hi and welcome to Nehra Classes YouTube channel. My name is Vikas Nehra and this is session 7 of our ongoing Ansible series. In previous sessions, we have already covered up the basics of Ansible like Ansible introduction, why do we require it, advantages of using Ansible, push-based versus pull-based architecture, the architecture of Ansible, Ansible terms, Ansible working, role of Ansible in DevOps, Ansible installation, Ansible ad hoc commands, Ansible modules and playbooks, and many more. And in this session, we will learn in detail about the Ansible variables and how can we use them in playbooks, templates, and in inventory files. So without wasting time, let's get started. Before I start the session and go in the details of the Ansible variables, we must know what are the contents of an Ansible playbook file and why the variables are very important. As you know that Ansible playbook can have one or more of the following items in it. There you can find variables, tasks, files, templates, modules, handlers, and many more. And the variables are there which you can not only use in the Ansible playbook, but they can also be used as a template and as well as in the inventory files. And variables play a vital role in Ansible. That is why they are very important. And in this session, we will focus only on the variables. We will learn how can we use them in Ansible playbook as the template and as well as in the inventory files practically. Let's learn the basics of Ansible variables and how can we use them. In Ansible, variables provide the much needed flexibility in playbooks, in templates, and in inventory files. Ansible variables can be classified into two categories like Linux. There you can find system-defined variables or the built-in variables like hostsware, groups, group underscore names, etc. So these are not defined by the user, they are predefined. So these are called the system defined variables. And you can also find there the user defined variables or the custom variables which are set by the user itself, like myvar, var 200, tune underscore 01, etc. So these are the user defined variables. User has defined them according to his requirement. In Ansible also, the variable classification is the same as we have in Linux. There also we have the system defined variables and user defined variables, and the other conditions are also same. Like if we want to define a variable, there are certain conditions which we must know, and these are the similar conditions that we have in Linux. The variable name can have letters, alphabets, numbers, and underscores. Variable names should always start with letters, not with numbers. So we have to keep in mind while defining the variables that it can never start with number. There should not be any spaces or hyphen present in the variable names. So if a variable is having a space or hyphen present in between the name, that is not accepted. Examples of the acceptable variables. Examples of acceptable variable names include, like we can have turntable, turn underscore table, turntable 01, turntable underscore 01. So these are the acceptable variables because they fulfill the conditions of the Ansible variables. Now I'm going to show you the examples of invalid variable names like turn space table, turn hyphen table, 01 turntable. So these are not fulfilling the conditions of Ansible variables, since it cannot start with a number, it cannot have the space or hyphen in between the variable name. So these are not acceptable in Ansible. Now we will learn how can we use the Ansible variables in Playbooks. Ansible Playbook variables can be defined by using where's keyword in the playbook file. So if you want to write a playbook file, you can start it with 3 dashes as I told you in the previous session. After that, you can mention the host group name. So you can write there hyphen space hosts colon space, and after that you can mention the group name where you want to run this playbook. After that, you can define the variables. So you can write there where's colon. After that, you can define the variable name, like I'm using the variable name as salutation, and here after salutation I simply put the colon and I give the space, and after that I have mentioned hello everyone. So this is the salutation which I'm going to use as the variable. So this is a user defined variable here. After that, I will mention tasks, and there I will define the name. So let's define the name as Ansible variable basic uses, and after that I will use the module debug module. After that, I will use the debug module to print the message, and after that I can define the message. So in the message field, I will simply mention the variable name as salutation within the double curly brackets, and make sure that you give one space before and after the variable name, and it should be enclosed in the double quotes. And after that, you can put 3 dots to close the Ansible playbook file. So what this Ansible playbook will do, this will execute the this will print the message which we have defined in the variable. So it will print hello everyone on all the hosts which are there in this group. So what this playbook will do, this will write the message hello everyone, because same message we have mentioned in the variable value. So here the variable is salutation and it is a user defined variable. Now let's go to the Ansible control node and I'll show you the execution on the terminal. So this is my Ansible node, and here I have the passwordless authentication for the Vikas Nehra user. So let's switch in the account of Vikas Nehra and let me show you the groups by opening the /etc/ansible/hosts file, and in this file I have defined 2 nodes in the Nehra group. So here we will run the playbook on this group. Here on the Ansible control node, I have already created the Ansible playbook file with the name as hello.yml to save time, and here you can see that the file is starting with 3 dashes and ending with 3 dots, and the host group name is Nehra because we want to run this on the machine which are there in the Nehra group. And here we are using the variable as salutations. So because of this, it will print its value on screen for the nodes, and it will show us the result as hello everyone. So let's quickly run this playbook. So I will write here Ansible-playbook and after that the name of the playbook file, which is hello.yml, and press enter. So you will see that it will gather the facts and it will show us the result as hello everyone on the screen for both the nodes. So the playbook is running and you can see the status. It is showing us the same message which we have mentioned in the variable value, hello everyone, for both the nodes. Now let's proceed further. Now we will learn how can we use variables with arrays. You can use arrays and assign them to variables as shown in the syntax below. So you can write a playbook like this. You can start it with 3 dashes. You can after that mention the host group name. Then you can mention where's there for the variables, and after that you can define the variable name, which is student in this case. After that we will mention the names of the students like Mark, Melissa, Arthur, Kevin. So these 4 are the students. After that we will write their task and we will give the name to this task. Suppose we want to give the name as Ansible list variable example, and after that we will use the debug module, and there we want to print the message, and here we are using the variable name which is students, and we simply put there 2, and this 2 represents the second student in the list, and after that we can put 3 dots to close the playbook file. So here also the variable name is students, and we are calling this variable in the message command, and there we can use arrays. We can define the student number there. Suppose we want to print Mark, we can mention 1. If we want to print Kevin, we can mention there 4. So the array is used with the variables in this playbook. Now let me show you the execution of this on the terminal. I have already created this playbook file as well to save time, and the playbook file name is students.yml, and here we are going to run this for Nehra group, and in the variables column we have defined the variable as students, and we are using arrays this time. Here in the students field I have mentioned 4 names: Mark, Melissa, Arthur and Kevin. So I want to call the array value here. So in the message field we have mentioned the variable with array, and it will print the value of the second array, and Arthur is there in the second array because it starts with 0. In the 0 array we have Mark, in the first one we have Melissa, in second we have Arthur. So it will print Arthur on the screen for all the nodes which are there in the Nehra group. Let's try to run this playbook. So I will write there Ansible -playbook students.yml. So you will see that it will print Arthur for all the nodes. So it is gathering the facts and it will show us the result. It is showing us the result as OK, and you can see this. It has printed Arthur for both the nodes. So that means our playbook is working fine where we have used the arrays with variables. Let's proceed further. You can also use variables with dictionaries. Using our previous example, we can have the dictionary list like this. You can start writing the playbook with 3 dashes. After that you can mention hyphen space hosts in the next line, and there after giving the space you can mention the group name. After that you can mention their wheres for the variable, and again we are using the variable as student, and here this time we are mentioning the address also with the student name. And after that we have mentioned the task. There we are using the debug module and we are calling the variable which is students. So here we are using the dictionary with variables, and we can execute it on the terminal as well. So let me show you this. To show you the working of the dictionary variables, I have already created the playbook file with name as dictionary.yml to save time, and here we are going to run this on the same Nehra group, and here we are again using the variable as students, and in the students field we have mentioned the names as well as the addresses, and we are calling the value of the variable in the message field. Now let's try to execute this playbook. To run this playbook I can mention Ansible -playbook and the playbook name which is dictionary.yml. Press enter here. So you will see that it will print the names as well as the addresses for all the nodes. It is gathering the facts, and here it is. You can see this. It has printed the names as well as the addresses for all the students on all the nodes. So in this way we can use the dictionary variables in playbook. Now let's proceed further. Now I am going to show you how can you use the Ansible variables in playbook to change the configurations on the nodes. Suppose if we want to make changes in any file on the client nodes, how can you do that with the help of Ansible variables using playbook from the controlling node? So let me take an example. Suppose we want to make changes in the configuration file of SE Linux. So this is the file that is there in etc SE Linux directory with the name as config. So this file is responsible for the SE Linux status, And here you can see that the SE Linux is running in the enforcing mode. It is right now enforcing on our Ansible server. And same on the client machine. Here also it is in the enforcing mode. Suppose if we want to disable it or if we want to make it permissive, how can we do that? So for that, on Ansible server, we can create a playbook with the help of which we will change the mode of SE Linux. So let's create the playbook file, and I'm going to use the name as se linux.yml. Here I will start the playbook with 3 dashes as I told you earlier. After that we will go in the next line. There we will put hyphen, then we will give 1 space and we will define the name. So we will mention their name, colon, then we will give 1 space, and there we can write enable or disable SE Linux. After that we will go in the next line and there we will mention the hosts. So let me write their hosts, colon, and we can mention the group name. So I will mention here Nehra. Then we will go in the next line and there we will define the variables. So we will write their vars. After that we will go in the next line and there we can mention status. So this status is the variable that we are using here, and here we can write disabled. We will use this to disable or enable SE Linux. So we can write here disabled. After that we will go in the next line and there we can write tasks. We will mention colon there, and after that we will go in the next line. There we will give the name. So we will mention hyphen there, but we will start writing from the same distance and we will mention here name. After that we will give colon and give 1 space, and there we can mention the name, like we can write there change SE Linux in configuration file. After that we will go in the next line and there we will define the condition. So we will write there line in file, because we want to make changes in the line of a file. Then we will give colon and press enter to go in the next line. After that we will define the path of the file where we want to make changes. So we will give the path that is /etc/se/linux/config. So this is the file where we want to make changes. And after that we will again go in the next line and there we will use the regular expression. So we will write there regexp colon, give a space, and within single quotes we will mention SE Linux there with up arrow like this, SE Linux. Make sure you mention it as it is where you want to make changes, and there we will mention is equal to. After that we will go in the next line and there we will write line and give 1 space, and there we will use the variable. So let me use the quotes here first, and there I will write SE Linux is equal to, and after that we will use double curly brackets, give a space, and then we will mention the variable name. The variable name in our case is status, so I will write there status, and again we will give 1 space and we will close it, and we will close the quote also. After that we can go in the next line and we will close this file. So we will put 3 dots there. Now our playbook is ready. We will save it. So our playbook is ready. Now let's try to execute it. So we can write there Ansible-playbook, and after that the name of the playbook file, that is selinux.yml. But before I execute this playbook, let me tell you that we are using the normal user account, and changing the SE Linux configuration requires the root privilege. So if we will simply execute this file without mentioning anything there, it will not change the configuration file. Let me show you. So let's execute the playbook, and here you can see that it is gathering facts, and here it has denied because it requires the root access or the sudo privilege. So it is showing us the status as permission denied. And let me verify this. Here you can see that it is still showing up as enforcing. Let me verify it on the client node as well. So here also it is showing up as enforcing. So it did not change. So in order to change it, we have to execute it with admin privileges. So we can write there Ansible-playbook and the playbook file name, and after that we will use -become. So what it will do, it will execute it with the sudo privileges, and this Vikas Nehra user is already added in the sudoers file. So this time it will change the SE Linux configuration. Have a look at this. So here you can see the status as changed, and we will verify the same. So let's try to open the configuration file, and here you can see that the status is showing up as disabled, and let's try to check it on the client node. So let's open the configuration file. So here also it has been disabled. So by using -become option while running the playbook, we can provide the sudo access, and the playbooks which need the sudo or the admin access, there we can use this -become option, or we can define it inside the playbook as well. Now I will show you how can you again change the SE Linux status without making any changes in the playbook. There are two ways. Either we can make the changes in the playbook file, we can write there enabled instead of disabled, or we can write there enforcing, and we can directly do that as well. Let me show you. So there we can write Ansible-playbook, after that the playbook name, which is selinux.yml, and after that we can mention there -e for the additional argument, and here we can mention status is equal to enforcing, and after that we can mention -become because it would require the admin privilege. So what it will do, it will change the variable in the file to enforcing from disabled. So instead of disabled, it will define the variable as enforcing, and it will change it in the file as well. Let's press enter here, and you can see that the playbook is running, it is gathering the facts, and the status has been changed in the configuration file. Now let's verify it. So let's open the SE Linux configuration file, and here you can see the status as enforcing. Let's check it on the client machine as well, and here also it is showing up as enforcing. So to make the changes in the variables, you don't need to make changes in the playbook every time. You can define them while running the playbook as well. Now let's proceed further. Now we will learn how can we use the Ansible variables in the inventory files. If you have different host systems that share similar attributes or values, you can define what we call group variables. These are used to assign the attributes which are common to all the hosts. For example, let's assume that we have two web servers, web server 1 and web server 2, which are both listening on port number 443, and whose NTP server is us.pool.ntp.org. So the inventory file will appear like this. There you can write web server _1 and web server _2 in one group, and the group name is web server _servers, and after that you can use variable in the next group. There you can define the group name as web _servers : vars for the variables, and there you can define the variables like the port number, which is 443, and the NTP server name. Now let me show you this on the terminal in the inventory file. So let's open the etc ansible hosts file, which is the default inventory file for Ansible, and here you can see that these two machines, web server 1 and web server 2, are having the common attributes. The NTP server is same and both are using the port 443. So instead of defining them here, we can use the variables. And how can we do that? Let me show you. We will go in the insert mode, and there we will create one more group with the same name. So we can write there web underscore servers, and here we will use colon, and we can use variables. So for that we can write here vars, and after that in the next line we can define the common attributes like the NTP server. So we can mention the NTP server there, and we can mention the port as well in the next line like this. And there is no need to use these attributes here in the group details, so we can remove them from the original group. So here let's go back and remove everything which is common like this, and after that we can save this file, so it will work in the same way. So here we are using the variables to define the common attributes. So let's save this file, and we are done. Although you can use variables in the inventory files in Ansible, but ideally you should not use them there. The standard practice does not recommend using variables in the default inventory files, and for that we can use the host and the group files. So what is the meaning of host and group variables? Although you can specify variables in inventory files as I shown you, but standard practice does not recommend that, and this is where the host and the group variable files come in. In a host variable file, the variable applier only to one host system in the inventory file. The host variable file is usually stored in the same location with the name as host underscore vars directory, which is there in the /etc/ansible, and if it is not there, you can manually create it. Let us consider the inventory file where we have two servers, and each one is using the different NTP servers. So this is where we use the host file if the attributes are different. Since in this case we have different attributes for both the machines, the NTP servers are different. So for these two machines we can create separate host file in the host underscore vars directory. Let me show you this on the terminal. So let's go to /etc/ansible directory and we will list the contents, and we will check whether we can see the host underscore vars directory there or not. So directory is not present. We need to create it manually. So we can execute sudo mkdir host underscore vars. So the directory is created. Now we will move inside this directory, and after that we can create separate files for both the nodes, and there we will define the NTP servers. So I will write here sudo vim, and we will give the same name as the node host name. So we can write here web server underscore 1. This file we will create for the web server 1 machine, and there in this file we will define the NTP server. So we can write web server underscore 1, and after that we can define the NTP server there, and we can save this file. Same we will do for the other machine. So we will create one more file for the other machine, that is web server underscore 2, and here also we will define the details for the NTP server. So this time we are using the variable here as NTP server. So this is the variable, and here we can define the different NTP server, which is de.pool.ntp.org, and we can save it. And we can create n number of files if we have n number of machines there which are having the different attributes. So for different attributes we can define them there in the separate files. Now in case if the attributes are similar, so we can create a group here. Let me show you that as well. Let's consider the inventory file below. Here we have two machines, web server underscore 1 and web server underscore 2, in the same group, that is web underscore servers. And here the attributes are same. Both are having the root user account and both are using the port number 22. So for this we can create the group file. And how can we do that? Here the second section can be defined as a file in the group underscore vars directory, and This should be in /etc/ansible directory. Remember that the name of the file should be the same as the name of the group. So first we will create a directory there in /etc/ansible directory with the name as group_vars, and in that directory we can create a file with the name of the group, and there we can define the common attributes. Let me show you this on the terminal. So let's come back, and here we don't have the group directory, so let's create it. So we can execute sudo mkdir group_vars for the group variables, and let's go to this directory and create the file, and we can create the file with this same group name. So we can write there web_servers, and in this file we will define the common attributes. We can start the file with 3 dashes, and after that we can define the common attributes like this, and we can save this file. So in this way we can define the variables in different files instead of defining them in the inventory files itself. So guys, this was all about the variables in Ansible and how can we use them in playbooks as a template and as well as in the inventory files. So that's it from my side for today's session. Hope you will find this session useful for you. If you like it, then do share it with your friends and colleagues and give a like to this video. And if you are new on this channel, then please subscribe us and turn on the bell notification. I will see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye. Jai Hind. Vande Mataram.